Hey everybody, it's Emmy and Gracie with a great adventure. And we are in a beautiful spot here in Chandler, Arizona. It's actually called Oasis Park. And right on the other side is a field of salute to the veterans who have given their lives for this country. And you might hear the birds, and I'm sitting kind of in an oasis because I'm in shade on a very hot day. It's going to get up to 93 today. Do you believe it? It's April and 93 already in the valley here in Arizona. But I got to thinking, on Sunday I was at church with my sister at the Grove, and Josh Havens happens to be the worship leader there. If you've never looked him up, look him up. He's an incredible artist. But he led us in a song called Christ is My Firm Foundation, otherwise known as He Won't. And it really ministered to me, and I was thinking about a conversation I had with one of my fellow RVers the other day, and they said, aren't you scared going on the road for a full year by yourself, just you and your dog? And I said I would be if I had not seen God do some incredible things in my life. As many of you know, I was missionary overseas 4 years in Holland and 4 years with Mercy Ships in West Africa. And even before that, leading up to that, I saw God do some incredible things in my life. But I wanted to share with you a story that I had completely forgotten about. And it was one that I used to share with some of the inmates when I was a prison chaplain at Denver Women's Correctional. And it's one I shared with my neighbors the other night. This was right after I came back from the mission field, and I had received an invitation to sing in Lyon, France, for my friend's wedding. And actually it wasn't Lyon, it was another small village in France, but I was invited to sing for her wedding. And I was so excited that they would fly me over to sing for this wedding in France. I mean, who gets invitations like that, right? And but learning from past mistakes, I said to her, let me pray about it to make sure the timing is right and it's good for me to be able to do that for you. I don't want to say yes and then have to back out. So the very next day, I got an invitation to sing in Israel, to lead worship in Israel for 10 days. Who gets invitations like these? All expenses paid. Guess what? It was at the very same time as my friend's wedding in France. So now I had to make a decision. Do I go to France? Do I go to Israel? Or do I go no place? And mind you, my expenses would have been paid for both trips. So how do you make a decision like that, right? Who gets these invitations? So anyhow, I decided to go camping. I was living in Northern California at the time. I decided to go up the Mendocino coast and go camping, just to take some time to pray about it and ask God where He wanted me to go, if He wanted me to go sing at my friend's wedding in France, or if He wanted me to go lead worship in Israel. And I had never been invited to Israel before. I'd been to France, but never been to Israel. So it was a tough decision. My friend's wedding, they weren't going to rearrange it for me, and it wouldn't come again. So how do you make that decision? So I went up the Mendocino coast. And I'm an early riser, and so after setting up camp the next morning, I woke up bright and early, and I decided to take my journal and my Bible. And if you've ever been to the Mendocino coast, you know it's simply stunningly gorgeous. And especially at break of day when there are no tourists out there. And I walked out near the ocean, and I thought, where can I sit down and just have a quiet, peaceful time with God and ask Him where He wanted me to go? And I saw in the distance this big boulder, and it was overlooking the ocean and all the scenery, and it was easy to get to. So I decided I would go up there. And so I went up to this big boulder and sat down on the boulder. And I on the way up, I said, God, you know, I really want to do what you want me to do. You have never let me down once. So I need a real distinct, direct answer from you. Do I go to France to sing for my friend's wedding? Or do I go to Israel? I mean, I've never been invited to Israel to lead worship, and I may never get this chance again. But I want to know what you want me to do. And even if you don't want me to go anywhere, I won't go anywhere. I just need to hear so clearly from you what you want me to do. And so I went up there and I sat down on this boulder, and it kind of had a little ledge, which was a perfect seat overlooking the ocean. And I opened up my Bible on my lap and I looked down. And it wasn't until I looked down to read my Bible that I saw underneath my feet, engraved in the rock that I was sitting on, engraved were giant letters about a foot each, a foot by foot, and dug deeply into the rock. And I read these letters, France, France. I kid you not. Now, it was the break of day, and I had to rub my eyes to see if I really was seeing what I was seeing, because I hadn't had my coffee yet. I thought maybe I'm hallucinating. But sure enough, as clear as day, it read France. Now, I don't know how that ended up in that rock. It could have been a tour bus of French tourists that decided to leave their mark in the rock on the Mendocino coast. I have no clue, but I kid you not, God wrote in a rock for me, because that's exactly what I needed, that clear of direction. I later saw friends that day that were camping nearby, and I said, would you guys go check out this rock? I want to see if you see the same thing I saw. And so they did, and they came back. They took a picture. They had their camera with them. They took a picture, and they said, yep, you're right. It says France. And so guess where I went? I went to France. Now, I probably would have chosen Israel, only because I remember thinking, I don't think I'll ever get to Israel. Well, get this. A few years later, I got invited again to go lead worship, all expenses paid, in Israel for 10 days. I'd like to tell you that was the only time I've been. I've been 3 times since then, all expenses paid. My point in sharing this with you is, if it were left up to me and my own devices, I might make a decision that maybe wouldn't have been wrong, but it wouldn't have been the best. I don't know who's listening to this message, but I do know a few things. One, God still speaks today. 2, if we ask him and we're willing to receive whatever answer he gives, he won't fail us. He won't let us down. Now, you might be facing a monumental decision, or a struggle in your life right now. And if that's you, my heart goes out to you, because I've been there, done that, and probably am not done facing those kinds of days. But I want you to know, God may not write in a rock for you. I told that to the inmates that came to my service, and they said, will God write in a rock for me? I don't know. He may not. But I do know this, that if you want his will honestly, and you honestly seek him for the answer and are willing to accept whatever answer he gives, he will be that clear with you. He will not fail you. I want to sing for you the song that Josh Haven sang on Sunday that ministered so much to me. Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand when everything around me is shaken. I've never still got joy in chaos. I've got peace that makes no sense. I won't be going under. I'm not held by my own strength, 'cause I've built my life on Jesus, and He's never let me down. He's faithful in every season, so why would He fail now? He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand when everything around me is shaken. I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, 'cause He's never let me down. He's faithful through generations, so why would He fail now? He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. No, He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. Rain came, wind blew, but my house was built on You. I'm safe with You. I'm gonna make it through. Rain came, wind blew, but my house is built on You. I'm safe with You. I'm gonna make it through. Yes, I'm gonna make it through. I'm gonna make it through. I'm gonna make it through. Oh, I'm gonna make it through. Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand when everything around me is shaken. I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, 'cause He's never let me down. He's faithful through generations, so why would He fail now? He won't. No, He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't. Remember that. Have a blessed day.